What is going on, Bears fans? We're asking a very weird question today. And the question that we're asking is: was Coleman Shelton sent from the future to stop Caleb Williams from becoming the greatest quarterback of all time? Now, if you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. If you don't know what you just heard or what you're witnessing right here, stick with me. We're going to have a little bit of fun with it. We're not going to do too much, but Coleman Shelton has been, I don't know what the French word is, but killing Caleb Williams for the first 2 weeks of this season. Coleman Shelton at this point, the starting center for the Chicago Bears, not having a good run of it. Part of the reason for him not having a good run of it, in fact, is his partner in crime, who has really not done anything himself, and that would be Nate Davis. So it's going to be interesting because of the nature of the NFL and breaking down game footage. We're not going to be able to do that, but I do have a couple of stills and snapshots that I want to give you to kind of show you exactly what this looks like and why we can't seem to get what is going on with set. And by the way, let me point out something that ended up becoming a you know what, I'm going to save that for a little while later, and you'll know that because I actually put it into the slideshow. So before we get started with Coleman Shelton and whether he traveled from the future and was sent by John Connor to terminate Caleb Williams, let's get into the people who have been good and bad performers so far. And of course, one of them on who's up and who's down, if you will, has been Cairo Santos. Cairo Santos has been just an absolute monster so far this year. He has been, at this point, the most consistent point scorer for the Chicago Bears for a while, no matter how bad or poorly this offense is played. And by the way, while I say that, we should note that there have been some good moments for the Bears so far. Again, if you haven't, hit that like button on the way in. Helps push me up in the algorithm. So getting Santos into the groove early on was very important. And of course, he is grooving right away. So shout out to Cairo Santos for keeping the Bears in games, keeping the Bears close, giving the Bears points when we need them. Touchdowns have been a little hard to come by so far. Now, in the bad category, before we do that, let's get to Roschon Johnson. Here's another one that's really weird. No stock up, no stock down. Do you know why? Because Roschon Johnson has not run the ball yet this year. We are 2 games into a season with a lot of promise where we had many conversations, among them DeAndre Swift. Would he be good? Would he be okay? What is he going to look like? Why are we doing this? Because we've got Khalil Herbert, who's been a monster, and Roschon Johnson, who we think is probably even better than DeAndre Swift at coming out of the backfield and doing his job. Well, what do we did so far? What we have, and these are the statistics that are out there right now. 67% of all the snaps have been played by DeAndre Swift. Travis Homer, 25%. Khalil Herbert, 10%. Roschon Johnson, 0. So let's go back here. We know what we have as Chicago Bears, and we know that Khalil was our guy. We know that Roschon as a backup was a capable and serviceable backup. And what did we get instead? We got the other 2 guys getting 92% of the snap. What is going on with Shane Waldron? And by the way, part of the complaints that he was giving you was that some of this was not making very much sense. That that just the flow of the game hasn't been working for him. This is crazy. Okay, this is crazy that we are 2 games into a season and Roschon Johnson, who we at this point know has been a really solid running back, is not getting the ball in favor of Travis Homer. Now, look, if this were reversed in any way and Travis Homer was at 0, Roschon Johnson was at 10%, Khalil Herbert was at 25%, not only do I think the Bears would be better off, but I think it would make sense. What we're watching right now makes no sense whatsoever. So one of the coaches, by the way, is going to be on our not list. So the weird sort of thing here that Roschon Johnson still 0 snaps into the season. Now, we're going to skip to the next guy who's up, stock up. Gervon Dexter. Gervon Dexter has been having a pretty good run so far. Look, in week one, Darrell Taylor got 2 sacks, but didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. However, Gervon Dexter did have in the second game against the Texans. I meant, but Gervon Dexter has been getting a sack in each game so far. He's had 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, 5 tackles. And look, he's on the defensive line. He's not going to get a huge amount of tackles. That's your linebackers who are cleaning that up. And the linebackers have been doing pretty good so far. But there's not many negative talking points when it comes to this defense so far. What we have seen, though, Gervon Dexter has fit that 3 technique role and is looking a whole lot better. And by the way, shout out to Andrew Billings, who's been the same. He's been these guys have been rocks on this line. Now let's talk about another person whose stock has been just in the tank. Bears quarterbacks will love Shane Waldron. That's what we were told when this happened. This is the early on stuff that we got, right? Big coordinator hire from Seattle. He was heralded for what he did with Geno Smith. And by the way, let me also say that I don't dislike some of the things that we've seen Caleb Williams do. In fact, CJ Stroud came over to him after the game on Sunday night and said, dude, you're going to be really great in this league. He can see the talent. He understands. He knows. We see the product on the field, and we understand that there are problems. And one of the problems is Caleb Williams just has 0 protection right now. And I'm going to show you a couple of slides here. We're going to break down where this absolute breakdown is happening. And let me point something out here. Braxton Jones, we talked about yesterday, didn't pick up a block in a scheme against Willie Coleman, Willie Johnson, Will Anderson. I'm sorry, Will Anderson. Didn't pick up the block. And it turns out the reason he didn't pick up the block is because that was part of a scheme. It was part of a scheme that he had. So we'll let that one slide because, look, one play does not a season make. However, there is an alarming trend right here that because of injuries, we've been kind of stuck with. So, again, what we've seen so far is Shane Waldron started Gerald Everett over Cole Kmet a lot more, which is nonsense. And then in the second game, he made that correction. But Roschon Johnson still has 0 touches. Khalil Herbert barely getting used in favor of Travis Homer. Guys, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what these choices have. I don't understand what is happening right here. I know that we're installing a new offense. I know that it will take time to get it down right, but we got to talk about the Terminator himself. But before we do that, we're going to talk about DeAndre Swift. And look, DeAndre Swift so far, I think basically has 48 yards rushing over 2 games. He's only averaging 2 yards a rush. An offensive line. Remember, guys, I told you at the beginning of the season, the offensive line, I think if anything, they're going to be a good rushing offense, right? But it turns out whatever they're doing so far hasn't been working. Whatever schemes Shane Waldron has tried to implement, this team is not comfortable with yet. They don't seem to know what is going on. They don't know which direction the rushes are coming. Like there's something off right now, and they will get it. Look, I have no look. We came back. We have great defense. We came back and won that first game after being down big. And then we had an opportunity and probably should have done a little something more to win against Houston. Now, there was a winnable game that we ended up losing. And look, we'll take that and we'll remember that. Again, that probably makes us 12-5 instead of 13-4 in the event that we get it together. But really, Homer is... Travis Homer has been his backup. Khalil Herbert is the only person that scored a touchdown on the rushing offense. So we just gave $8 million to a guy with 48 yards rushing and a 2-yard average over 2 games. Now, we'll break that down because there are some problems, and the changes in the positions are ones that we have seen. And this right here, Nate Davis. Nate Davis is one of the absolute worst performing offensive linemen in the league. And the only person who's worse, I think, at this point, Coleman Shelton. So maybe, just maybe, uh, John Connor sent Nate Williams or Nate Davis and Coleman Shelton from the future to assassinate Caleb Williams, to prevent him from becoming the GOAT. Maybe John Connor's related to Tom Brady, something like that. You know what I mean? Something's getting weird here. But look, I'm going to give you a couple of breakdowns here, and I want you to look at this. So this is a play from Sunday night. And what you see is they're in a shotgun formation, one back. You've got one tight end set. This would mean that you've got a couple of wide receivers out on the wings. You got three wide receivers, one tight end, one running back, and you're coming in here. And I want to show you how this breaks down. Now, when you look at this rush, you can see that they're on the edge. Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, they're not the problems in this scheme. Here's what ends up happening, and I want to point this out. When this play starts to break down, I want you to look at how close Coleman Shelton already is to the quarterback. DeAndre Swift has not even had an opportunity to make a move out of the backfield. But more importantly, what is Nate Davis doing? Nate Davis is now chasing down Coleman Shelton to try to help with the block in the interior. Nate Davis did not pick anybody up on this play. And in fact, if you were to watch this thing play out real time, you would have seen that Nate Davis was actually in the way of DeAndre Swift before moving out in order to help protect in this situation. Now, this is not a clean pocket already. You can already see that Coleman Shelton just cannot stop somebody in this rush. And by the way, we should point out here, Coleman Shelton is a Super Bowl winning center for the Los Angeles Rams. This is not a guy who cannot play the position. There's something drastically wrong here, and we are leaving Nate Davis alone. Like, they're not even attacking Nate Davis with enough. There's only four pass rushers. There's only four pass rushers here. So, let's consider that for just a moment. The linebackers were able to drop back into coverage. It is literally 5-on-4 right now, and look how dirty this pocket is with an open guy who's not doing any. And by the way, the end result of this play was not beneficial to the Chicago Bears. Okay. And then we have another one, which is, again, it's the same kind of setup. We're in the same setup. It's the same play. I was able to pull out and get a little bit of edge rush. This is, by the way, is a different play. It's like the very next play. And I want to show you what ended up happening here. The same thing ends up happening right here. Okay. What we're looking at is almost the same play happening one more time. Nate Davis out here, no blocking, watching it happen. And look, he's getting pushed all the way back. Coleman Shelton, again, is just getting pushed off the block immediately and pushed into the quarterback. Now, for the love of God, something's got to give here. So is Coleman Shelton sent from the future to stop Caleb Williams? Of course he's not. That's not really the point. I was having a little bit of fun with that. Make sure you hit the like button on your way in. But guys, there are a lot of problems when you look at this situation here. You're looking at virtually the same play happening twice, by the way. Virtually the same play happening twice, and you're seeing the same mistakes happening, and you're seeing Coleman Shelton getting pushed up and pressed in and not able to cover his block. And by the way, this is not the only time you're seeing him get pushed around so far. I'm not sure. And let me tell you, the answer to this, by the way, is Ryan Bates. And I think it should be known that Ryan Bates is the guy at this point that has to replace Nate Davis. Nate Davis is a failed experiment. The quicker we recognize that, the better off we're going to be. The other thing is the center position. Maybe it's time to give Doug Kramer a chance, because at this point, Coleman Shelton has been entirely unreliable. And we're going to, and by the way, Tevin Jenkins working hard. Darnell Wright. And look, by the way, you win some, you lose some. Okay. These are professionals going against one another. if the interior of this line was creating a pocket, this team would look better. One thing that we have seen so far, Caleb Williams makes faster reads, faster decisions than Justin Fields. His time to throw is under 3 seconds at this point. He is fast. He is very fast at making decisions. And in fact, he's one of the faster in the leagues early on in the season. Could it get worse? Maybe. Um, why, if Ryan Bates couldn't beat out Davis or Shelton for a starting job, what makes you think he's going to be an upgrade? He's been injured for most of the preseason. Why would he? We're evaluating somebody. He's because Nate Davis. We know what we've got with Nate Davis, and we know for $12 million, all we're going to get is sacked a lot. So why Ryan Bates? Because you have to do something, and you can't not do anything because that makes no sense whatsoever. If they continue to do that, and if they continue to let them work together and continue to, and look, it's not going to get way better. It'll get a little bit better. But let me show you something that should absolutely infuriate you and anybody else. The number one and number two rated offensive linemen in the entire NFL, one of them is named Lucas Patrick. So, Lucas Patrick right now is the second highest rated um, offensive lineman in the entire NFL, which means that he probably was not the problem to begin with. So, something's going on in Chicago that we'll have to see here. Um, yes, he's playing guard, but he's also a top guy. So how did we not recognize that last season? And how did we not swap Nate Davis out? Again, that's a $12 million decision that we made that is just not working out. The unfortunate part is with $12 million, you're going to have to play him a little bit. So we'll see what the Bears do going forward. But it should be noted, Lucas Patrick now grading out at 92.6 at Pro Football Focus and is number two overall, number one, Eric McCoy. So it's going to be very difficult for the Bears. And look, the way that I see this is this was a patchwork line that had to be fixed. Kieran Emagaji was a new prospect being brought in, Matt Pryor, a new prospect. We've barely seen some of these guys. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they're not into the scheme. But once we see who we think is ready, clearly not being ready, then there has to be some sort of reaction, if not in service to the team, in service to the fans, in service to seeing at least seeing some work being put in to give us an opportunity. And by the way, if you allow players to just work through it because you're a player's coach, that's fine. However, if you look at the product on the field and you are seeing what everybody else is seeing and you don't make a change, then Matt Eberflus, you can't be coach here anymore. And this is, maybe the job's not on the line. Maybe there's a chance here that it all gets turned around because we do have to face the fact that this defense has been very good. But at some point, this line has to be able to protect a quarterback to give him a fighting chance. And in the situation is this: if you cannot create that opportunity, then you have to be able to run the ball. So the question is, why are you not running the ball? Why are you not running the ball down throats? Why are you not, why is it not happening the way that we predicted? Now, be encouraged by this. Caleb Williams so far has been spotty, but in many instances has looked the part. He's been elusive. He's been difficult to bring down. Uh, okay, 7 sacks means he's not impossible to bring down, but we've seen good from him. We've seen good from him. And it's going to get better. It's going to get a lot better. And this protection scheme, they're going to work this out. Eric Washington has done wonders for the defensive line so far. So it would stand to reason that I think Shane Waldron and his team, they got to get this together. They got to figure this out. And I know that they're aware of it. They're not without that understanding. They've got to get this done. Okay. So maybe, just maybe, we'll see a nice little turnaround. We are going against, in the next couple of weeks, the 3 worst rushing defenses in all of football. And when I say that, I mean number 30, number 31, and number 32, with Indianapolis up next. So getting the running game back on track against Indianapolis will build some confidence in this offensive line, who is desperately in need of a little bit of confidence right there in that center. Ryan Bates does not return until week 6. So this is what we have for right now. Now, should the should this continue to be a stretch, then I should expect that maybe Doug Kramer is going to get a few more snaps in these games. I would think Matt Pryor is going to get a few more snaps in this game. It is time to start looking at some options and start rotating some players to see if there's anything that gives us a better option. And you got to start looking at Roshan Johnson. You've got to start looking at Khalil Herbert. How Travis Homer becomes your guy. Guys, we started a season with Travis Homer being a special teams player, lucky to make the roster. And somehow we've turned him into our number 2 backup, and he has not earned number 2 backup. In fact, the only one with a touchdown is Khalil Herbert, and he is at this point 3rd string. It makes no sense, whatever's going on. So I hope they get it together. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button. I'm going to get out of here for the day. This was an interesting deep dive here. Lucas Patrick, how does Lucas Patrick become a star? How does Caleb Williams not become a star already? You know, let's see what Shane Waldron has in store. One of the things that I do want to say, I'm not defending Shane Waldron at this point, but I when you look at the history of Shane Waldron, he does seem to work with all of the things that don't work. He does seem to make changes. So I hope that he is looking to make some serious changes. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Bear down and F you, Green Bay. We are still coming for that booty, and we're going to knock it out of the park, guys. Look, I'm still confident in the Chicago Bears team. I told you yesterday, I really believe that we're going to win about 6 more in a row, that we're able to win the next 6 games in a row and look like a stud team. And will it be crazy? I don't know. But yeah, Chris Morgan could be, there might be a big problem here because this team so far has not gotten the message on the offensive line. But we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much.